Hello everyone. It's that time again for us to talk about veterinary medicine. We chose heat awareness in pets, so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So, and this week is wonderful because I think it's supposed to get 105 this week. So, I guess the most first of all, we'll talk about what it is. What are the clinical signs in my pet? Then how as a person what can I do before I get them to the vet, and maybe a little bit about what vets will do, So I guess the most important thing to this whole thing we're going to talk about is prevention is the ` key. So if your dog isn't used to being outside in the heat, don't leave him outside. So, a vehicle, leaving a dog in a vehicle, we all know it's a no-no. So you don't do it. It's called prevention. So, and just the time of days you do exercise with your animals, morning and late evening are the best times. There's less humidity, and less radiant heat, direct sun on your pet. So that's important. So we all know that heat is a very dangerous situation to be in. It is treatable. There's clinical signs that I'm going to talk to you about to be aware of that, if you can catch these things early, you can rectify the situation yourselves. So I don't know if there's a real temperature. Normal dog's temperature can run up to 103. Most dogs are way over 105 degree temperature when they're in heat distress. So it's hard not to tie in other things with it, but they know that like even a car vehicle, within 1 hour it can change 40 degrees inside that temperature of that car. So that's why shutting your vehicle, leaving your pet in there, the temperature is going to raise very close, very rapidly. But another thing on car temperatures, I just found out they have remote temperature readers that you can actually know what the temperature. And we need it around 70 degrees really for a pet to be in a vehicle. So, because like I said, when you close that door, the temperature raises very quickly. So, what else to talk about? Clinical signs of heat distress in your pet. First thing you're going to notice is panting, of course. These animals do not sweat like humans do, so they pant. That's how they get their heat in and out, quickly. So panting will be one of the first signs. Shaking, they start to tremble. You're getting a little bit farther into the disease. Becoming stupor or uncoordinated or falling down, that's going to be your next stage that you're going to see. They'll get uncoordinated. My dog, when I'm hunting with him, I notice when he gets hot that he'll start getting just not as paying attention as much, and he'll get kind of confused. Those are kind of early signs, of things. If you have a hunting dog or a working dog and you're using them, and then they're just not responding to the whistle they used to, or they're just doing dumb things, that's maybe not the right term, but just things that they don't, they're sharp as a tack normally, but they just start doing odd things. Those are the little bitty things to look for that, hey, maybe I need to take a break in this work cycle, So, and then we're talking about for working dogs there for a second, but so the next thing after shaking would be drooling. That's another sign you see even before shaking, and then a coma. And then you're talking bloody diarrhea, then you're talking seizures. That's when you get really severe. So, those are the clinical signs I would tell you guys to watch for. If you're working with your pet or you come home to your pet, and they've been left in the garage accidentally or outside, and we put them outside because there was workers working on the renovation of my house. That's called an acclimatization problem, because the dog's used to be in the AC all day, and you leave it outside all day one day, that could be a big problem really quick because the dog is not used to that. So we don't have as much problems with cats because we all know cats are more inside, and they do adapt, I think, a lot better than some dogs. There's so many different breeds of dogs. Your brachiocephalic dogs with the smug noses, they have breathing problems already. Well, you start adding humidity, that's a problem. One of the biggest things, going back to the original thing of just heat distress, ambient temperature, humidity, radiant heat, which is the direct heat on there, and airflow are probably the 4 biggest environmental factors that cause heat problems. So some of these things we can control, and some of these things we can't. Humidity, we can control it if we work them in, in the mornings, or go for a walk in the mornings versus 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we can affect that in some ways. The airflow, we don't really have an effect on. Unless you're in a vehicle where there's no air at all in a shut thing. But I'm talking about just walking your dog. So, but also, the direct sun on your animal, well, go to the shade. So you can kind of move that a little bit, be in and out of the shade instead of just in a direct open park, So, and then also think about, the hot ground, if you're on asphalt, you can burn their paws, So you got to be smart about the times that you have an animal outside, work an animal, walk an animal, all those things. Other things that do affect it, hair coat, those dark dogs tend to absorb more sunlight, guys. We all know this. Also like we already talked about the brachiocephalic dogs, the bulldogs, the pugs, the ones that have breathing problems already. They're not going to move air as well, so they're going to be affected by that humidity and that temperature a lot more. So just be aware of that. Just kind of certain breed predisposes them to having that problem. Treatment, or let's say we've talked about what it is, what the clinical signs would be. Now, what do I do? What if I come home and I do find my dog, he's panting heavy, he's in a coma or whatever? First thing, get a temperature. Have a rectal thermometer around that you don't use on yourselves, of course, and we do temperatures rectally. Get a temperature. What is it? If it's too high to even read, guess what? Just put it away. The most important thing is get them cooled off rapidly. So the first thing I would do, so air circulation is important. Cooling them down rapidly with water is very important also. So, and a lot of people talk about ice baths, using ice versus just normal water. I would say if you got a bath and you can fill it up, get them into water. Ice water, some people talk about using, some people don't. I'm probably not going to recommend it because you don't want to drop the temperature too fast or too low. You don't want to get them hypothermic, So getting them down to about 102.5, 103 is when we stop cooling off the animal, just to give you an idea of temperature when you're reading your thermometer. So while you're doing these cool down processes, take temperatures. So, but using water, just tap water, that will work. So, and you want to dunk them in it because their main arteries are femoral arteries, and their arteries underneath, their axillary region, that's the arteries you're going for to get the cool down quickly. So we talked about putting fans on them also. That's just like us, your perspiration, you get air, it cools you off. That's also going to help. So air and water are probably the most important things. Do not force water down a dog if they don't want to drink it themselves. That's very important because all it's going to do is make them vomit. So if they can't drink the water, don't choke them by making them take water. So, and if they're in a coma or anything like that, the best thing to do is get them cooled off and get them to the vet right away. So things we can do, we can give them IV fluids, right? So IV fluids, that's one way of us being able to cool down their blood quickly. So those things we'll use. We'll also use the water baths, and we'll be keeping an eye on temperature. Other things you can watch for, one of the things I forgot is watch their gums. So if their gums are white or pale or same thing, I guess, they're purple, that means they're going in the shock. That is another one of the clinical signs of late stage hyperthermia. So other things that we would do, so we would get them up on fluids right away, getting them cooled down, just like the same thing I told that a person can do at home. Very important. One of the most important things, probably back to the prevention stage that I'm going to talk about, is things that you can do to reduce the hyperthermia in your dog, or how heat affects your pet. And I'm going to talk mainly about dogs, is acclimatization. So that means if your dog's used to working out 5 days a week in the morning at 90-degree temperature, and you build them up to a certain stage, that's called acclimatization. That's what the military does. When they're acclimatizing their soldiers for war or whatever, they're working them out. There's a reason they do what they do. So you can do that also. Also having break times, and if you're working a dog, if you're training a dog to work on retrieving dummies, let's say, or and giving them, you only work them for 15 minutes, and then you give them a break time in the shade and plenty of water. So water is probably one of the most important things you could do to prevent a heat problem in your pet. Other things, So it's just picking the time of day. We already talked about this a little bit, but do it in the morning, you know, when it's cooler, 20 degrees cooler, you know, and less humidity and less direct sunlight. So all those things you can work with to make your dog more, you know, but that acclimatization is very important, and I think offering lots of water. A lot of people say, well, what if I use an electrolyte substitute? You know, some people may ask about that. There's no testing they've really done to know if they really even need it, because they sweat differently than humans. You know, humans lose electrolytes and all that stuff. Dogs in their panting, how much electrolytes are they losing? You know, we don't really have any studies of that, and we don't really know if it helps. So just regular tap water is probably the most important thing. Well, some people ask, well, what about cold water? What about ice water? The only thing ice is going to do in a drink is really, it may entice them more, because some dogs like to drink or eat ice while they're doing it. So if that helps your dog drink more water during an exercise, great. One of the most important things is don't let them drink too much. I've seen bloat a lot of times where their stomach blows up after a workout or after a hunt. You know, somebody will say, well, my dog went to the lake and just started drinking all kinds of water, came out, and it was all, couldn't even move. You know, it was so big, and that's called bloat, you know, and that will happen. So you don't want to do a lot of water. Don't let them have unlimited water. So trying to think if there's any other things we didn't cover. I'm going to open up for questions now, and we're going to finish this. So if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them the best I can. So,
what are the stipulations about letting them eat ice cubes when they're not hot?
what's the stipulation?
Like eating ice cubes when they're not hot.
All right, so just basically, can dogs eat ice cubes in general? Yeah, my dogs do. You know, they enjoy it. I don't see it as a problem. So it's, you know, I think it's too. It just depends on how much they do. Limited. It's the same as, you know, like how much should my dog chew on a chew toy? You know, my finger, I can rub it on this table. It doesn't hurt at first, but after a half hour, I'm gonna have an ulcer. So everything's in quantities, guys. Same as water, same as your ice cubes. You know, yeah, you give them one ice cube, not a big deal. But if they're eating nothing but ice cubes all night, they're gonna break teeth and they're gonna have wear. So it's important just to kind of limit what you do. So, what else? I don't know. That's about it. So hope you guys enjoy the rest of your summer. You know, keep your pets out of the heat. Just pay attention. The best thing is prevention and paying attention. So hopefully this will help you guys out. If it saves one dog from having a problem or one pet, that's wonderful. So, but if you have any problems, you know, you can call us. You have questions about this video. 636-225-4545 is our office number. So, but share this with all your friends, please, because, you know, we don't want those pets getting hurt out there when we can prevent it. Thank you.